Darryn Peterson is by a wide margin the most talented player in college basketball right now. In any normal season, him being the number one pick would be an open and shut case. At 6'6", 205, Peterson's smooth jump shot, explosive athleticism, and comfort in his mid-range game can't help but make fans draw comparisons to Kobe and MJ. And honestly, I don't blame him. The ease at which Peterson dominates isn't something that is seen often in college basketball. Scouts and coaches are quoted as saying it looks like he's playing a different sport than everybody else, and I believe he isn't just the best player in college basketball, but one of the best players in the world, period. But Peterson's skill set is about where comparisons to Mike and Kobe end. Kobe and Mike became iconic for countless reasons. Their tough shot-making ability, high-flying dunks, the off-the-court branding, but maybe the most highlighted aspects of these two players were their mentalities. Michael Jordan was an infamously ridiculous competitor. Someone who would punch a teammate in the face during an intense practice. Someone who would play through the flu or food poisoning from a funny Utah pizza when his team needed him. Kobe Bryant earned the respect of not only his teammates in the NBA, but of athletes across the world with his undying commitment to playing every single game like it was his last, shooting with a broken hand, walking with a torn Achilles. Kobe was the personification of toughness. Now this brings us back to Peterson, who's been one of the biggest stories in college basketball this season, not for his domination on the court, but for his seeming desperation to be off of it. Peterson made his debut for the Jayhawks on November 3rd against Green Bay, and opposing coach Doug Gottlieb said,
"So Darryn Peterson, he's great. He's great. We loved him on film, more so than a lot of the other freshmen around the country, just because he just plays. And then, end of the first half, they just go 1-4 flat, and Preston Ruger's a tremendous defender. That's just a pro,
However, since his performance, Peterson missed 11 of KU's next 25 games and left many others early, most notably during the game against fellow top prospect AJ DeBonsa with what has been reported to have as cramping issues. The most prominent reporting on the Peterson injury describes him as hamstring cramps, although he was also reported to have quad issues during the game against NC State. There's been no official reports of this, but many fans speculate that Peterson may be experiencing hamstring tendinopathy, a condition where the tendons of the hamstring become irritated, overloaded, and start to undergo degenerative changes rather than normal healing. This would differ from your average hamstring pull, as it is a persistent and chronic issue that can continue for months. These symptoms seem to match with Peterson seemingly being healthy one second, then needing to ask to be subbed out the next. The truth is, no one except Peterson, Bill Self, and Kansas's medical staff know the extent of Peterson's cramping issues, and any conclusion that the media can come or fans can come to is speculation. The reports that DP isn't fully healthy has not stopped NBA and college basketball fans and media from creating their own theories about why Peterson isn't playing. There's heavy speculation that Peterson's load managing games at the behest of his agent, and that the cramps are just a cover for Peterson trying to skip out on his obligations while becoming a top pick in the draft. After KU's game against Oklahoma State, where Bill Self said that he believed there were past DP injury issues, many KU fans seem to have reached a breaking point. Not only have fans begun to take issue with Peterson's lack of commitment, but commentators are taking aim at Peterson now and questioning whether NBA teams should draft a player who's seemingly uncommitted to his coaches, teammates, and the program. Now, with all that being said, I take extreme issue with the narrative that's being crafted around Darryn Peterson, and I believe the attacks on him and his character are honestly shameful. It's one thing for fans to make unfounded, baseless claims that Peterson is sitting out because he's quote-unquote load managing, but when highly paid commentators and former players are pushing this load management narrative without knowing the reality of the player's health situation, there's a serious problem. As far as I can tell, the only piece of evidence that people have to support this claim are tweets from a fan account that claim that they have witnessed conversations between DP and his agent, which seem to conveniently occur just prior to or just following his hamstring flare-ups. Outside of these claims, there is no clear evidence that would indicate Peterson is purposely sitting out games for self-preservation purposes. In my opinion, there are two sections of the Darryn Peterson hate club: angry KU fans and nostalgia merchants. The Darryn Peterson situation highlights a section of the basketball community's quickness to blame every single issue on load management, or players not wanting to work or practice hard or play hard, and in the process tell everybody how all their players in their era had elite mentalities and it's quote-unquote just how this era is. Here are a few players who were accused of faking the extent of their injuries or of not playing through minor injuries in order to protect their draft status: Ralph Sampson, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, and Penny Hardaway, two of which had significant injury issues when they got to the NBA. I'm not saying that Peterson is going to be injury prone in the league or that he's definitely injured right now, but the point is that no one knows the extent of his health. And people like Jay Williams, Jamal Mashburn, and Bruce Pearl should be smart enough to not spread narratives that disparage an 18-year-old's character when there's no evidence of what they're accusing him of. And these same attacks have been made against top prospects going through injury throughout basketball history, and not just in this era of load management. The other group of nostalgia merchants are the Twitter talking heads saying that they would never draft DP and that they would pick a real basketball player like Darius Cuff. And it's crazy that this is an unpopular take right now, but I 100% believe that if a team were to pick a Cuff over Darryn Peterson next year in the draft, I guarantee they would look like a fool in 3 years. Now, the angry KU fans, I do have a little more sympathy for, because I can understand, a player not being seemingly just quitting on you and not being available at all times to help your team when you're so invested in something, being frustrating. But at the same time, if the guy is not healthy and he's pushing himself to play through injury for the benefit of his teammates and for the fans at the end of the day, then you attacking his character when like I said, there's no evidence that Darryn Peterson is sitting out for draft purposes. So these attacks just don't make any sense to me, especially considering the fact that if Darryn Peterson pulled a Jalen Johnson and just quit on the team right now, he still would be a top draft pick. But yeah, long story short, I think players deserve the benefit of the doubt when it comes to injury, especially generational talents like Darryn Peterson. You don't become as good as he is at the game of basketball without working your ass off and loving the game. It could be agent fueled, it could be injury, but there is no way it should or will affect Darryn Peterson's draft stock, and he will be a top pick in next year's draft, and he will be a star in the NBA.